Billions of Drake streams might be fake, and this lawsuit just exposed everything. Watch till the end. This changes music forever. So let's get straight into it. If you're ready to find out why billions, yes, billions, of streams have been faked, then pay attention. Drake fans have never wanted to face this reality because this is their worst nightmare. Be sure to leave a like because we're really going to need it today. Drake has been caught and caught badly. What we're witnessing right now is the beginning of yet another lawsuit. And while it's bigger than Drake himself, since it's aimed at Spotify as a whole, the centerpiece of it all is Drake, his catalog, and the fraudulent activity surrounding his streaming numbers. And we're not just talking about a few fake plays here and there. No, this is on a massive scale. We're talking about billions of fraudulent streams across his entire catalog. So, if you're ready to see how Drake has been running what might be the ultimate grift, the fact is, those numbers are a lie. And after everything that's been said about Kendrick Lamar and his so-called fake streams, it's ironic, isn't it? Kendrick already warned us. As he said, conspiracy theories is given, but I must admit it, you got the wrong person. Well, the Drake fans and OVO supporters definitely got the wrong person. Because in the end, all the things they accused others of, all that outrage, it turns out their favorite artist was the one doing it. We're going to break down everything that's about to damage Drake's name like never before. So if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe because we're going to need it. Drake's fans aren't going to like what's coming next. Honestly, this is a moment that exposes the truth. The streaming game has been a lie. Numbers don't really matter. Drake's been a fraud. And everything that has shaped this current era of music, all that superficial hype, it's just that superficial garbage. So make sure to leave a like, because this is an important one. Now, let's talk about what actually happened. Earlier this morning, Rolling Stone released a shocking and exclusive article that had clearly been waiting for the right time to drop. The headline says it all. There's a lawsuit against Spotify claiming that billions of Drake streams were fraudulent. The article states, a new class action lawsuit accuses the streaming platform of turning a blind eye to mass-scale fraudulent streaming. And who's the face of this article? None other than everyone's favorite cupcake himself, Drake. Fittingly so, after he tried to look cool trolling at the World Series. But things are about to get much worse from here. Because what's being alleged about Drake? The details of how he's been manipulating the system are shocking. For Drake as an artist, for OVO as a brand, and for the fans as a community, this is devastating. When your entire identity is built on achievements that turn out to be fake, things get complicated and very embarrassing. Now, let's get into the details, because this is where it gets interesting. After all the discussions about UMG and the bot streaming accusations tied to Kendrick Lamar, after all the conspiracy theories that were supposed to come down on him, it's honestly wild that the case has turned around and landed squarely on Drake. So what exactly is happening here? Who's suing Spotify, calling out Drake, and tracking everything that's been going on? Let's break that down next. Well, it's not just anyone behind this lawsuit. It's a legendary hip-hop figure who filed it in California. He's from the West Coast, and his name is RBX. For those who don't know, RBX is Snoop Dogg's cousin, a frequent collaborator with Dr. Dre, and a certified hip-hop veteran. If we were to talk about rappers featured on the most iconic albums of all time, RBX's name would be right there. He appeared on the Marshall Mathers LP and on both Snoop Dogg's and Dr. Dre's first solo albums. That alone gives him a legacy in hip-hop that's greater than most. Over the years, he's built a long list of accomplishments, truly the definition of a hip-hop professional. Now, according to the lawsuit he filed, here's what's being alleged. Every single month, under Spotify's watch, billions of fraudulent streams are being generated through fake, illegitimate, and even illegal methods, including bots. That's directly from the lawsuit. It continues by stating that this massive streaming fraud causes real financial harm to legitimate artists, songwriters, producers, and other rights holders. Why? Because Spotify's royalty system is based on a model called stream share. Essentially, it's a giant pool where revenue is divided based on each artist's percentage of total streams. The more streams you rack up, the bigger your cut of that pool. And that's exactly why artists like Drake manipulate the system, to secure a larger share of the pie. His inflated success literally takes money and resources away from smaller artists who genuinely earn their streams, but don't have the same reach or access. The lawsuit then zooms in directly on Drake. It claims that Spotify either knows or should know that a significant and non-trivial portion of Drake's 37 billion total streams are inauthentic, appearing to come from a sprawling network of bot accounts. And honestly, I can't help but say this with the biggest smile on my face. I told you so. All those Drake fans who insisted he was doing this for the culture, for the industry, or to help a little guy. This completely destroys that narrative. Once again, Drake sits at the top of a massive grift and scheme, benefiting at the expense of smaller artists who actually deserve fair compensation. So please, never tell me again that Drake is pro-industry, pro-artist, or supportive of the very community he claims to represent. Because as we're learning more and more each day, Drake might just be one of the most anti-industry figures in music right now, and possibly even worse, though I won't go that far just yet. And where things get even darker, beyond the scope of beef, drama, or rivalry, is in the technical evidence being laid out. According to the lawsuit, an analysis of Drake's streaming data revealed abnormal VPN activity that concealed the true locations of bot accounts playing his songs. For example, it states that during a 4-day period in 2024, over 250,000 streams of Drake's track, No Face, appear to originate from Turkey, but were falsely geomapped through coordinated VPN used to appear as if they came from the United Kingdom. Drake and all of your fans, I have to say it once again, this looks very bad. Conspiracy theories is given. I gotta admit it, you got the wrong person. Those words from Kendrick Lamar couldn't ring truer right now. Because remember when all that drama was going on in Turkey, the UMG situation, the label offices there, and everyone claiming they had inside information? They said Kendrick was the one lying, that he had fake streams, that everything would soon come out and destroy his name, all to help Drake's image. Well, fast forward to now, and it turns out Drake was the one hiding out in Turkey, using fake streams from there to boost his numbers everywhere else. You honestly can't make up how bad this looks, how much he manages to stumble over and over again. But listen, if you think that's bad, I got news for you, it gets worse. The lawsuit reveals that a large percentage of accounts streaming Drake's music were geographically concentrated in regions where the population simply couldn't support that level of activity. And while the article doesn't name specific places or give exact numbers, it claims that some streams were traced to areas with 0 residential addresses. Drake, how could you? How do you try to run this kind of grift, rig the system, and not even think through the basics of how easily this could be traced? All of it. The fake numbers, the artificial streams. It's all a lie, and when the data doesn't add up, it's not hard to connect the dots. If you're going to do something shady, at least make it believable. But this is amateur hour, straight clown behavior. And believe it or not, it still gets worse. The lawsuit also points to significant, irregular spikes in streams for Drake's songs long after their release, paired with unusually slow decline rates compared to other major artists. To put that in context, most songs naturally lose streaming momentum over time. That's called a decay rate. But Drake's numbers don't behave that way. The lawsuit claims that the number of streams attributed to individual accounts is staggering and irregular, with a massive portion of those accounts listening to Drake's music 23 hours a day. It also notes that less than 2% of those same users ever stream other artists. There's plenty more in the filing, but the pattern is clear. Drake's streaming data is riddled with irregularities, fake activity, and statistically impossible behavior. Rolling Stone reportedly reached out to Drake's team for comment. But of course, they had nothing to say. Why would they? We've seen it before. When the story makes them look bad, they go silent. At this point, it's undeniable this is seriously disturbing stuff. And if all of this turns out to be true, if the investigation picks up and more evidence comes to light, this could trigger a ripple effect across the entire music industry that no one is truly prepared for. Because think about it. Discovering that the last 4 or 5 years of Drake's career were built on falsified numbers would completely reshape how we view this era. For a long time now, people, myself included, have said that this has been one of the weakest periods in both hip-hop and mainstream music. The songs haven't connected, the energy has felt off, and nothing has really stuck. Especially in that 2022 to 2023 window, before all the beefs and controversies, Drake's music just felt uninspired. It was like he had become a parody of himself. Now, realizing that the music wasn't truly resonating with people, and that he may have used inflated numbers to create the illusion of success, to keep the charts moving even when real listeners weren't, that's just surreal. And based on everything we've seen so far, this case feels far from over. There's clearly more beneath the surface. But I genuinely believe that as this unfolds, the spotlight is only going to focus more intensely on Drake. There are probably other artists involved, ones who are considered industry favorites or labeled darlings. And yes, it's likely the labels themselves are on it too. But Drake, he's been the face of this entire operation. He's benefited the most from it. And frankly, He's been the one showing up day after day to keep the grift going. So right now, when it comes to Cupcake Drake, I'll say this plainly. If there are irregularities around his catalog and streaming numbers, I believe he did it. I think he's been fully aware, complacent, and willing. This has just been another layer of his long-running scheme. Another part of the act that's fueled his arrogance. Because when you really look at how Drake has behaved, especially during that recent beef, it almost feels like he knew the system would protect him, like he believed there was a switch waiting to be flipped in his favor. That's why he came across so overconfident, so dismissive, and why he didn't properly prepare. And when things didn't go his way, when reality hit, you could see the shift, the shock, the confusion, the sudden change in tone and demeanor. Even going back to the first Not Like Us lawsuit, Drake seemed to speak with insider confidence about how the industry operates, how certain artists can benefit from the system. Looking back now, a lot of that sounds less like intuition and more like guilt, the kind of understanding that only comes from firsthand experience. At this point, it already feels like Drake has left a big enough trail to show that he's made the art, craft, and culture of music worse overall. But with that said, there's something important to recognize here. If you've been paying attention over the past week or so, from everything happening between Drake and Aiden Ross, with all that bizarre drama, to the ongoing Not Like Us lawsuit that Drake refuses to let go of even after it was dismissed, there's a clear pattern emerging. Drake really became the first true industry darling, and, ironically, the first artist to completely embody what's wrong with the modern label system. He's been one of the main forces making the industry as toxic and unfair as so many artists describe it to be. And now, as he tries to distance himself from that same system, to pull the curtain back on a game that he and a select few helped build and exploit, we need to pay attention, because this next phase is going to be crucial in determining how things move against him. I think it's about to get much worse for Drake, because while Drake may be the most visible example, the face of the problem, he's far from the only one. There are likely hundreds of people in smaller networks, from artists to label insiders, who've all played their part in manipulating the system, taking away opportunities and resources from others to benefit themselves. They propped up mediocre, lazy, and formulaic music, using shortcuts to stay on top, while real artistry suffered. And I want to draw a quick parallel here to the NBA. Just a week or two ago, reports surfaced about Jonte Porter, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones allegedly being involved in operations that manipulated game outcomes, skewing stats and influencing results in ways that shouldn't be possible. They use insider knowledge to rig the odds and benefit from it, directly or indirectly. The reason I bring that up is because the same thing is happening here. What's being exposed in music right now, with Drake at the center, mirrors what we're seeing in sports. In both industries, there are insiders quietly ruining the integrity of the system, manipulating outcomes, and exploiting what's supposed to be fair competition. And as the truth starts to come out, whether it's Terry Rozier in basketball or Drake in music, these networks will do what they always do. Try to pin everything on one person. They'll make Drake the scapegoat, the fall guy, the face of an entire corrupt machine. But if we're being honest, there are probably dozens, maybe even hundreds, of others who've been part of the same game across the industry. So as things unfold, I think what we're about to witness is Drake taking the full blame for a problem that he and many others helped create, one that's been quietly poisoning the music world for the past 10 to 15 years. It's going to be very interesting to see how everyone moves from here on out. Because again, while Drake has been one of the worst things that happened to music, and clearly the leader of this entire operation, we're now starting to see that truth unfold in full. But let's be real. You'd be lying to yourself if you think other major artists aren't doing the same thing. The ones who always pop up in the charts, who always post huge numbers, who release big records that somehow never leave a real cultural mark. Do we really believe their numbers are all authentic? Because in an industry where we already know how the game works, and we know the exact path the number one guy has taken, when we see all his friends and collaborators following the same playbook, it's hard to ignore the pattern. Just think back to that infamous call between Young Thug and the streaming executive, where they discussed boosting Ghana's album to take the number one spot from Weekend. They talked about manipulating those numbers as casually as if they were ordering lunch. That tells you everything about how normalized this behavior has become. So, for all these artists who've treated music like a numbers game, where success comes from calculators, not creativity, this might finally be the turning point. The moment where actual artistry gets a chance to rise again. Starting with Drake, hopefully more of these so-called superstars get exposed for what they really are. Because for Cupcake, Drake, and the rest of these grifters, things are about to get a whole lot crazier, scarier, and honestly a little hilarious to watch. That's all I've got for today. Let me know your thoughts on everything that's unraveling for Drake, one of the wildest lawsuits we've ever seen, and clear proof that he's exactly the fraud we've been calling out for years. Where do you think this is all headed? What do you think happens next? And on that point I made earlier about Drake becoming the industry's scapegoat, taking the blame for what an entire group of people helped create. Do you think that's what's happening here too? I can't wait to hear what Jed has to say about all this. If you made it to this point in the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton, and I appreciate all the support more than you know. Now, if you want to see how, just before all of this, Drake managed to cement his reputation as the biggest loser of all time, right after the World Series ended, his team lost, and Kendrick Lamar scored another win thanks to Drake's own actions. You're not going to want to miss that. Check it out next.